This is History for Cocktail Parties with hack historians Thornton Kennedy and James Ottley.
Welcome to History for Cocktail Parties. My name is Thornton Kennedy, and I'm here with my co-host, James Ottley.
Hey man, how are you?
How are you doing today, James?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
Are you ready? Are you ready to get into Chapter 3 on the Panama Canal?
Edge of my seat, man.
The seventh wonder of the modern world.
Indeed.
Or one of the seven wonders of the modern world. Catch us up. How far did we get in episode 1 and 2? I guess let's not go all the way back to episode 1. Let's just recap episode 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we talked about that we had explorers and adventurers who first started talking about promoting a canal, but they had no business doing so. A lot of them, one of them actually had never even been there, to Nicaragua or Panama. We talked about how France suffered a devastating defeat in the Franco-Prussian War, losing 100,000 soldiers at Sedan. Had a $5 billion indemnity they had to pay back. It was supposed to cripple them for a generation, but it didn't. They had this rebirth. They had the spirit of revenge, and the age of science had taken over, and geography, and they had this rebirth and a way to kind of revenge or provide revenge for Sedan. This is about when Ferdinand de Lesseps, a failed French diplomat, entered the stage, and though he had no technical training, he pulled off building the Suez Canal.
No discernible skills whatsoever.
He had seen a rainbow form over the desert, had this vision or hallucination, and that was enough. Thus launched the Suez Canal. So he became an international hero, and this gave him the entree or the floor to propose the construction of an even bigger, more colossal endeavor, the Panama Canal. So the Société Civile Internationale de Canal Interoceanique was formed, and that's where we're going to start off today.
I cannot wait to get into it. It is, again, the number of things that are relevant today, the number of just challenges that are almost overcome. Not really.
Right.
It is a great story. But before we get started, I do want to thank our partners at Play. Business is serious, but who wants serious, stodgy marketing? Check out our friends at Play, a full-service advertising agency. They are deep in the mix with AI and digital know-how, driving more people to your door. And whether it's IRL, in real life, or virtual, Play ensures the right people find you and buy what you're selling. See their many case studies at goplaydesign.com. That's goplaydesign.com, and start growing your business today. And again, thank you so much to our partners at Play.
Indeed.
And now, onward and upward. Are we going to get to Panama this episode?
Yes, we are. We're at least going to talk about it. So, as I mentioned, and I'm just going to call it the society, but the Société Civile Internationale du Canal Interoceanique du Darien was formed, and they had some notable figures in it, like Émile Littré, who was the author of the French dictionary, for example. Another notable member, and actually the leader of the group, Lieutenant Lucien Napoleon Bonaparte Wyse, who was illegitimate son of the first Napoleon's niece, Princess Letitia. So he was 29. He was temporarily on leave from the French Navy. And the initial plan for the society that it put out there was they were going to do a series of explorations. It was going to be wholly nonpartisan, with the world's leading scientific societies participating. And they were going to find and try to determine the best route for a canal. So they sent an emissary over to Bogota, Colombia, to get permission for this survey. But Bogota, interestingly, said, no, you're not going to have free range. You're going to confine your activities to Darien, which was east of where the existing railroad was. And they said they forbade any intrusion along the right-of-way. So this was already, from the get-go, kind of hardly the broad-range perspective, that was the original plan.
And just to back up real quick, there was a Panama Railroad that went across the isthmus that already existed. So they're saying it has to be
to the east of that.
To the east of the existing railroad.
Right, and in Darien. You can't even go along the right-of-way. Don't disturb their efforts. So, again, limited right off the bat. So in 1876, 17 men sailed to Panama. Wyse was in command. Lieutenant Armand Reclus is the second in command. And their orders are to find and survey a canal route but again, they're limited to east of the railroad, so they don't have much leeway there. It took 6 months, two spent sailing, and everyone suffered from malaria. 2 men died in the jungle. A third died on the voyage home. Wyse returned. He was thin, covered in insect bites, thoroughly discouraged. He managed to cross the isthmus, but bugs and the heat and everything, it just really defeated him. And the best he could recommend, and purely by guesswork, was a Darien Canal with a tunnel as much as 9 miles in length. Can you imagine that? Trying to build a tunnel and send cargo ships through it? Pretty worthless. So he gets back to France, and de Lesseps, who we've talked about, has already decided, dead set, that it's going to be in Panama and along the canal on the railroad route.
And we already decided that it's a sea level.
And it's going to be sea level, just like Suez, because that's what he knows how to build. And so he says, this is no good. Get your ass back on the boat. Go back to Panama and get it right this time.
Sends Wyse back into one of the most miserable places he's ever been.
On Earth, absolutely. And it's kind of a pointless endeavor because, as we said, de Lesseps has already decided it's going to be Panama, his way or the highway. So Reclus, he's there again, and he is sent to or told to explore the Panama route along the railroad. This is in violation of the agreement with Bogota. But, it wasn't even, he did so little, he didn't even explore. He just got on the railroad, basically, and rode it back and forth a couple of times. Wyse, once he gets to Panama City, then sails again to Bogota. It is really hard to get to Bogota, Colombia from Panama. It's almost like Panama is an island.
Right. And Panama was its own entity. You could not access Panama from land.
Yeah.
You had to take a ship around the Darien Gap.
Absolutely. And Reclus, he comes down with a terrible, excruciating earache, and he calls the whole thing off, and he heads back to Panama City. Does nothing. He gets an earache after a couple of days and goes back. And that was it for him. So that was the sum total of the Wyse survey. There was no exploration at all. It took 2 weeks and 4 days. And Wyse himself had played no part in it.
Yeah, there's no survey.
There's no survey.
No mapping. There's no, this is what the land looks like. He simply rode the railroad back and forth and said, this is what de Lesseps wants.
Exactly.
So just give him what he wants.
Now, Wyse did know that the Americans had done an expedition there in 1873, and really, they had, start to finish, done just an incredible task.
They had actually surveyed.
Ran a line of levels from ocean to ocean, prepared all these maps and charts, and Wyse knew that or thought that he could get a hold of these maps and charts if he went to Washington. He thought, well, there's no conflict of interest.
Wait, did we finish the Wyse concession?
Not yet.
We haven't gotten to that yet?
Haven't gotten there just yet. But
Jumping my lines.
No. Good point. But I think that was in his mind, and that maybe he could get a hold of these maps that the Americans had done.
Yeah,
I'm thinking, right? And so Wyse finally reaches Bogota, and so in March of 1878, he signs an agreement with President Pera, who at that time has 1 week left in office. And so he's like, what do I care, lame duck. So he signs this agreement. It's the famous Wyse Concession. And what it does is it grants the society a 99-year treaty to build and operate the Panama Canal. And it requires, one thing it does require is the society's got to reach an amicable agreement, that's in quotes, with the Panama Railroad. So he does accomplish this. He sails back to Panama City. He hears that Reclus has already taken off. But Wyse doesn't do anything. He takes no time to do any survey. He just he says, well, I thought maybe I had an obligation to go see Nicaragua, which he does. But he just follows the route that the Americans had cut, spends just a couple of days there.
Wasn't there a story of Wyse just showing up in Bogota, just ragged and he had just been riding and moving, changes his clothes, goes in. He has no,
there's no letter of introductory thing somehow.
Walks.
And so the fact he pulled that off.
It's a remarkable story.
It really is.
This Frenchman just walked into Bogota and walks out with this
a 99-year
lease.
Yeah, exactly. And so Wyse, he goes to Nicaragua, spends a couple of days there, picks up some rocks, doesn't do a survey, just follows the route that the Americans have cut through the area. And He could have gone directly to New York and then D.C., but instead he goes to San Francisco so he can ride the Transcontinental Railroad, which had just been built.
That is awesome.
And so he goes to Washington, but he's not able to. They will not share the maps and plans with him. So I know that was probably a oh crap moment for him.
Yeah.
So he goes back to France. He's got no survey. He does not even have a map of Panama, other than one made by the railroad 25 years earlier. But he does have
the concession.
The concession,
which is
remarkable.
Yeah.
So he gets back to France. Wyse and Reclus, they reunite, and they quickly put together a plan to present to Lesseps. It's a sea-level canal, just what he wanted. And again, they do it by guesswork. I mean, They really didn't do a survey. They didn't really do any work when they were in Panama or Nicaragua.
And it was exactly what de Lesseps wants, which is just to follow the existing railroad.
Exactly. He's dead set on it. And so now de Lesseps feels like he's almost ready to convene an International Canal Conference or Congress, even though the whole point of the Congress is just to choose the Panama Canal, the Panama route.
Well, but it's also he needs legitimacy lent to what it is, or else he's not going to get the financial backing.
That's the whole point.
That's the whole point
of the Congress. And so he has a couple of loose ends. He sends Wyse again back out, sends him back over to the United States. He needs some Americans to show up to give it. It's essential to the prestige of the event, and he also has got to get a guarantee from the Panama Railroad. He actually wants to buy the railroad. Wyse meets with the owner of the railroad. He says, "Look, I'll sell it to you for twice the market value."
Just unbelievable amount of money.
Already money out the door. Yeah. You'll get into that. So he goes to Washington, and Washington, he had just been there asking for these maps and whatnot, and they were kind of leery of that. But they're apparently also leery in the 1860s. I don't know if you remember this, but Napoleon III had tried to establish a French empire in Mexico.
Yeah.
Failed. I think that's where Cinco de Mayo, I think it was one of those battles where we got Cinco de Mayo. But anyway,
so they were a little concerned about a Bonaparte arriving in Washington and looking for maps.
What'd you say your middle name was again? Yeah.
Is this some unfinished business of your...
Right. And so they do allow 11 delegates to attend the Congress, and he makes it back to France. De Lesseps is, thrilled. Now he can finally have his International Congress to... give, as you said, legitimacy to this idea of this. Although the point is supposed to be to have this International Congress to decide the best route and what type of
all
canal.
These presentations, you're going to have all this debate, but it's a foregone conclusion.
Absolutely.
De Lesseps knows where he needs it to end. Everybody at the conference knows what the point is, but the Americans come in almost naively.
Guns a-blazing, too. So they convene this Congress in May of 1879, and... There are 136 delegates from 22 different countries. There are 400 people crowded into the Grand Salle or Grand Room where they hold the Congress. And the most important committee is the Technical Committee, and that's the one charged with deciding where the canal is actually going to be built and what kind of canal and what it would cost. It's the largest committee. De Lesseps, of course, is on the committee with 52 other delegates, most of whom are French. And not even a quarter of those were engineers.
Right.
Not even a quarter of them, of the 52. But as you said, Thornton, the American delegation shows up, and they bring all of their findings from the Grant expedition.
They bring maps.
Yeah.
They bring surveys. The French don't
Imagine that. It's incredibly detailed and scientific.
It's the first time the French have seen these things.
First time. Yeah. Yeah,
they
exactly.
get up there and they're just whiffing, talking romantically about building this canal. Right. America comes up and goes, "This is actually
here's the deal." Right.
What really is down there, guys.
Right. And so, the Americans, bring real data. They bring receipts, as you've said or mentioned, that, hey, you got to build this thing. It's a lock canal, not sea level.
Absolutely.
In Nicaragua. And they said, look, it's 181 miles, but 56 of the 181 miles are already provided by Lake Nicaragua.
There's a huge lake in the middle of Nicaragua.
Absolutely. Lake Nicaragua.
It's a lot easier to navigate.
So named. There's 70 miles of the San Juan River that could be made navigable, 58.2. That would leave just 58 miles of digging. That's not that much longer than the Panama Canal. And the cost would be $65 million, which was a third less than what people were proposing for the Panama Canal. They answered all these questions by the engineers that were there. It truly was just a drop-the-mic performance, and de Lesseps said, man, if they had taken a vote that day, it probably would not have gone his way.
But who saves the day?
Well,
or does not save the day. Throws mud in the sand in the gears.
Indeed. And in fact, the Americans also talked about Culebra Cut, that it was, mudslides were going to happen.
Dude, we're going to come back to that hard.
Absolutely. That it was going to be an impossible task. And it would be disastrous, they said. And so de Lesseps, man, this is just this is not good for him, And so he gets to work. He starts lobbying behind the scenes. Said his lobbying efforts would do credit to a modern American political boss.
Right.
It had to be the Panama Canal, the Panama route. He said Panama was the French route.
Right.
There could be no turning back. He was just dead set. It's almost like George Costanza saying, "Jerk store, that's going to be the end." I don't know if you remember that episode or not.
And it's a great point. You mentioned this last episode, but the Nicaragua Canal, although it was a lot easier, cheaper, saner, it was American.
Yeah.
And the French wanted this thing to be a French canal. They needed a win.
They said, to abandon de Lesseps, said that to abandon the Panama route would be, which was the French route, would be to abandon France.
Wow. Jeez. And no hyperbole there.
No, and so all of these themes we talked about, enthusiasm and remember the Sedan right. And Le Cren and Le Rouge and all of this stuff. Anyway, so poor Wyse and Reclus, they were sent back to the drawing board to try and make something else. So they dropped the idea of the tunnel, and they're just, and which, again, how do you get a freighter through a tunnel? But anyway, so I guess they come up with some type of new plan. And so now de Lesseps, he cancels the rest of the breakout rooms or the committees and gives a speech to the entire Congress. I mean, he's, as we talked about, he's a hell of a salesman, hell of an orator, and, he's talking about French honor and, this and that.
It's just a magnificent speech.
It really is. And it's almost, I've seen, like Mel Gibson and Braveheart running through the throngs, with the flag,
But what drives me crazy about it is that this is what everyone knew he wanted to do. And he gets up there and makes this fantastic speech, but he just threw off the guys that he was indifferent.
Yeah.
He had a really strong opinion about which way he was going to go, and here he is finally dropping the hammer.
Yeah.
And, the people who aren't engineers are up. Yes.
Right. Everybody.
The people who are engineers, the Americans are like,
scratch, come on.
Oh, man.
Right. He said, there's a railroad already there. We've got established cities on either end. He said there were problems, there are always going to be problems. There have been problems at Suez. For every challenge, there would be a man of genius capable of meeting and conquering it. Just, again, that kind of pie in the sky or enthusiasm.
Technology and man will catch up
with
the challenges as they arise.
Absolutely.
And meanwhile, he had not been to Panama. He had no idea what those challenges were.
Not, no.
Wyse, the one who had been there, comes back shaken.
Yeah. Eaten up by insects. Yeah, exactly. And so he says, look, if he tells his delegates, look, if it ends up being in Nicaragua or anywhere other than Panama, he's going to refuse to participate. And that might have been the crowning blow.
Interesting.
I mean, he was the guy that, built the Suez. He was the international.
If walks, it's going to be really hard to raise money.
That's right. So the technical committee meets the next day, and they vote, and you can imagine which way they go. They pick Panama, and interestingly, Gustav Eiffel of the Eiffel Tower, who was an engineer on the Suez Canal, voted against it. So there were 52 committee members. 20 of the committee members walked out.
Left. Right.
And so there were only 18 members there to vote on it, and out of the 52. And it went 15-3 to Panama. So they convene the big Congress again, the full Congress, and they, give the results of the technical committee. It was announced, and the Congress votes. And, here again, it's not a bunch of engineers. It's a lot of, people that are just, just enthralled with the Lesseps.
Yeah, it's the geography, society. Right. We're all members of this group.
Exactly.
And this is the right way to go.
So they took a voice vote. There were 74 in favor, 8 opposed, 16 abstaining, and 38 absent. So of the 74 people that were in favor of it, there were 19 engineers. And only one of those 19 engineers that, again, voted in favor had ever even set foot in Central America. Isn't that crazy? So I mean, like this whole about to build one of the biggest, or embark on one of the biggest engineering feats in the history of the world.
Yeah,
and
most of the engineers sat on the sidelines.
Exactly. And
in fact, the two biggest engineers France has, who is Gustave Eiffel and the Lapinay fellow who had built a railroad across Mexico, both voted against it.
Yeah. Absolutely crazy, and it was it was done. They choose this route, and this like I said, I guess I just can't impress. I mean, they're about to build this colossal engineering feat here, about to embark on it, and this is how they decide where and how to build it. So
that's right.
A quote here, and I guess I need to correct myself from a previous episode. I mentioned that I had read a book by Ambrose, and I meant to say McCullough, so my apology on that.
Sorry to David McCullough.
Yeah, indeed. But said this grand, as we talked about, this grand international gathering had been conceived not to arrive at a consensus, but to provide an inaugural ceremony for a decision already made by the one delegate who mattered, and that's Ferdinand de Lesseps.
Right.
And, the Wyse Concession, the Wyse Plan, in full public view with all possible ceremony to give the appearance of an impartial scientific international sanction.
It works.
It did work.
It works because he's then able to go out and raise a tremendous amount of money. The money all comes from investors who saw the success of the Suez Canal, but he also goes after normal French people, French citizens who empty their bank accounts in favor of the of this canal. And I want to read to you a quote that I think de Lesseps only visits Panama twice, right, during the canal construction.
And neither of those times was during the rainy season. Right?
Correct. The rainy season is like from April to November or something, and he's there in February just enjoying. So he goes down there to survey the route and to do the groundbreaking and to celebrate this big moment. And a Frenchman stops him as he's walking on the Panama Canal and says, "There will not be enough trees in the jungle to make crosses for your workers' graves."
Yeah.
And that, of the two times he toured, someone says that to him on his first visit, and that was in late December 1879 to inaugurate the construction. And so on that visit, he's going to do his groundbreaking, and there's just parties everywhere. He is really good at throwing parties.
He thrives on it.
Champagne bottles are stacked up in the ditches. It's just this huge party. And he finally goes out with his daughter on a boat with all the dignitaries, all the local officials to do the official groundbreaking. And this should have been your sign that de Lesseps was not quite who he said he was. On the Pacific side, he arrives on the boat and the tide is out. So he can't actually access the point where the canal is going to be built. So he pulls out a champagne box for the bottles. He puts some dirt in it, and his daughter strikes the dirt with a ceremonial pickaxe, and that is the official groundbreaking for the Panama Canal. The construction undertaken by the Compagnie Universelle du Canal Interoceanique de Panama fell into 4 real phases. From March 12th, 1881 to the end of 1882, the entire project was under a single engineering company called Corveau and Hersant. This is the same French company that built the Suez Canal.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Second phase, 1883 through 1885, Corveau and Hersant withdraws. Yeah. Because the work proves too difficult.
And they can see the writing. They see the writing on the wall too.
Well, and also Gaston Blanchet, the director of the company and the company's really driving force, dies of a malaria 10 months into the project, which is another foreshadowing of things to come. So then the company hires a bunch of small contractors to bring in and to try to get it done. That does not work out so well. The third phase, 1886 to 1887, a few large contractors come in. They take over the work. This coincides with that second visit by de Lesseps. And this is because that second visit is because the investors are panicking. Yeah. Everyone is worried that this is not going to work. So de Lesseps shows up to, fortify everyone and to know this. But this is 2 efforts that have now failed. They're on try number 3. Right. And finally, the 4th phase, beginning in 1888, they go to a sea level project. The sea level is abandoned. Yeah, right. And they're going to do a lock system. It's temporary. Mm-hmm. So once the lock system is placed, then they'll return it to a sea level.
Still does not want to give up.
Not want to give up the sea level. That's really the problem of the whole issue. There's during the
that and malaria, of course, the fact that they haven't figured that out yet.
During the Congress, one of the French engineers said that you could do a lock system through Panama. It would have cost a quarter of the cost, and it would have been completed in half the time. But they just didn't listen to their own French guy.
Right.
So they raised a lot of money for the effort, as I said. And back to that timeline, back to 1881. A couple of challenges we want to talk about. First and foremost, as David McCullough talks about, is disease.
Yeah.
The work picks up in 1881. So does illness and death. The first yellow fever death among the 1,039 employees occurs June 1881, right after that wet season starts. We'll get into the challenges of building a sea level canal in a minute, but generally the number of deaths that's attributed to the building of the Panama Canal is 20,000.
Is that right?
Would you sacrifice that? No, you would never sacrifice that many human lives in the building of anything.
No.
This is my favorite point. This is a slight tangent about the building of the Panama Canal. So what I found most interesting,
Let's hear it.
was that the French had already had a incredibly catastrophic incident with the yellow fever.
Right.
And it was one of those butterfly flapping its wings types things. It altered history. It was the Haitian Revolution, 1791.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The successful insurrection by the rebellious, self-liberated, enslaved African against French colonial rule. Now it's Haiti. So Napoleon Bonaparte sends an army of 20,000. He felt like Haiti was very important because it was going to be the stronghold in his entry into the New World. He was going to conquer the North America. But yellow fever decimates the army. The French army lost 100 to 120 men a day to the disease.
Jeez.
So without that foothold in the Caribbean, Napoleon agrees to sell 828,000 square mile Louisiana territory to the United States for $15 million in 1803 because he couldn't defend it.
Yeah.
The yellow fever had completely taken his army out. God. You would think 70 years hence, the French would have remembered that yellow fever is still there, but they don't. They did not take any lesson from it, and it was a fundamental misunderstanding of the disease. They thought the disease came from stirring up the ground.
Right.
Or from loose morals.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the name malaria itself is taken from the medieval Italian mala area, bad air.
Bad air, yeah.
They do not know that it's mosquitoes.
Right.
And today we know that, and it's so, matter of fact. The company establishes 2 hospitals, and this is really shows you the level of their failings, right?
And their complete lack of understanding about how malaria and yellow fever is transmitted, as you said, by the mosquito. No screens. No screens. And I think the bed, I saw a picture, you might be about to reference this, but the beds, in order to keep, they thought this would keep ants out, each bed post sat in a little saucer of water.
Right. To keep ants off the patients, which is a perfect breeding ground
for
mosquitoes inside the hospital. They also had all of these fruit plants and all these things, and the ants would attack the plants, so they put little moats of standing water around all the plants all over the hotel.
Yeah.
So many patients who came to the hospital for other reasons fell ill and died of the disease inside of the hospital. And it got to the point where people just didn't want to go to the hospitals anymore.
I'm fine. I'm good.
Yeah, do not put me where people go to die. When asked about the danger of deadly tropical diseases, Jules Dingley, who we'll talk about more later on because he ends up being kind of a hero for France coming in on this thing, although he will not be remembered as such, he said, only drunkards and the dissipated take the yellow fever and die there. Mm-hmm. So it's people of loose values and loose morals, the true French. But the reality is that many of France's finest young engineers, intelligentsia,
civil servants,
they all go down to Panama exactly as you said, in that spirit of enthusiasm for France, and they die there. They die there in incredible numbers, and it decimates the population of the labor force as well. I mean, there's a huge labor force, mostly Caribbean residents who come over to get a job, and they're dying at unbelievable rates. Just absolutely catastrophic. Now, you mentioned the Panama Railroad. This is a big point, and that is that de Lesseps eventually does purchase the Panama Railroad, and he purchases it for a price of $25 million.
God.
which is a third of his company's budget.
Yeah.
He blows a third of the budget.
Blows it on the railroad.
Buying the railroad. And not only does he blow a third of it buying the railroad, but they fail to use the railroad in any way that is beneficial to the canal building. They could have used the railroad to move dirt in and out.
That's right.
And they end up just using it to transport people in and out. They never fully flex. Had they used the railroad correctly...
They did not realize, if I recall correctly, they said that they originally thought it was a matter, like the big task or the thing that was going to be the biggest challenge was digging all that dirt.
Right.
But they didn't think about where we're going to take this dirt. And if they had focused on, hey, it's a dual problem, not just digging, but also moving it out of the way, like you said, they might have had a different, or might not have gone down as quickly.
So when we get into episode 3 or episode 4 in a minute and a half, the reality is they've started work on the Panama Canal. It's 1881. You've already seen tremendous death from disease. They have no understanding of where the malaria and yellow fever are coming from. They think it's related to how you live your life or to digging in the dirt and it's coming out of the air. People are getting sick and dying. They are not using the limited resources they have. That first year, they're really just stacking up equipment. Equipment is stacking up at both ends, just in Cologne and in Panama City, just a ton of stuff. But they haven't really started working on the actual canal yet.
Right. And I think I remember it was kind of like just a logistical nightmare.
Logistical nightmare.
They had stuff from all over, different vendors from all over the world, speaking, directions in different languages, et cetera, et cetera.
And the one thing they do well in this point is they build the infrastructure. They build a beautiful hotel. They build hospitals. They build all the stuff that people are going to need to live in, the barracks.
Right.
And they're kind of two Panamas at that point. There's where the French people live, and then everyone else is in squalor.
Right.
But we'll get into all that in just in the next episode.
Sounds great. This is History for Cocktail Parties with hack historians Thornton Kennedy and James Ottley.